Good evening and welcome to this edition of the Coach's Corner, which every year kicks off our football season. We're here at the Culper Media Network where I'm Mark O'Connell, joined as always by my trusty colleague Steve Peacock. Steve, welcome aboard to the studio and the upcoming football season. We've been doing this a long time and I know it's always exciting when football season rolls around. We'll get a chance to talk to both coaches tonight, but what are some of your feelings and thoughts going into this season?
Well, Mark, it's our 19th season together, and that in itself is great. Love working with you. Football's in the air. You know, that signals too. Signals the beginning of fall and ready for some high school football. Expecting some big things this year from Culpeper and Eastern View, even though both have lost some key personnel. But I think we're looking at two very good football teams this year.
Well, let's take a look first at Eastern View, if you will. Eastern View came into existence in 2008. They've had the benefit of having the same coach at the helm ever since its inception, Greg Hatfield, and of course he's done a good job there. They've had the continuity. Take a look at, as we look at the success that Eastern View's experienced. Steve, I think the one sticking point, and it seems like really the annual stumbling block for the team, has to be the second round of the playoffs. If they could just get past the second round, we don't know how far they could get.
Right, I know, and that's been a really Achilles heel for Eastern View and Coach Hatfield and his staff and the players. I mean, they play very well during the regular season. They get very highly ranked. They win their first round playoff, but then they turn around and run into a juggernaut. Last year was Cortland. Mm-hmm. Previous year has been Woodgrove. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, strong football teams, and it kind of take Eastern View to the woodshed. I mean, I don't mean that to be, in a bad way. It's just that they've just been out physical. I mean, the other teams, Cortland last year with its powerful running attack, and the year before with Woodrow with a powerful ground game and their big offensive and defensive lines. So that's what's happened to Eastern View, and I think that's really gotten Coach Hatfield, not only him but his whole staff and the team, motivated that this year they want to come out there. They return a lot of good personnel, and they want to come out here and make a good showing, but they definitely want to advance beyond the second round of the Virginia High School League playoffs.
All right, so, and then for the Cyclones to do that, I mean, obviously, if it's high school or college, your kids get older, they move on, they graduate, right, and you have to replace them. That's always the way it is. Now, we look at the Cyclones, I mean, some of those key losses, to me, you have to start with losing Josh Stallings, the quarterback, and having to replace him.
Probably the best all-around player ever to play for Eastern View in his short history, Josh Stallings. He's now playing at William & Mary as a walk-on, probably going to be switching over to tight end. But you lose somebody of that caliber, not only the rushing yards and the passing yards, but the leadership role that he brought and the hard work ethic, not only in the field but in the classroom. It's hard to replace a leader like that. So that's what I'm very interested in, see how Eastern View handles that loss of Josh Stallings.
All right, and some of the other key losses I would say were Luke Easter, Jamez Guanil, Bryce Hardy. I mean, he really developed into a terrific linebacker. We mentioned Stallings, Cedric Wormley, Tyler Keene, Brett Sherino. I mean, what a phenomenal football and wrestling career he had. Carrington Travers, Raekwon Carter, and Brett Leak. I mean, those are the names right there that you think Eastern View.
Right. Brett Leak went on to is now playing on the scholarship at the Naval Academy, and big offensive lineman. He's going to be a very hard player to replace as well. But I think the Eastern View has the personnel in place. They still have Diego Hunter. They've got some other good players coming back, with Eddie Russell now leading the helm at quarterback. So I think that you're going to see, and you got Montrez Orange, you're going to see some good football players. They were young, but now it's their turn to step up and shine. As you say in high school, you're only there 4 years, so it's the next man up. And this is what I'm anxious to see with Eastern View, and how when they open up against Spotsylvania, see how they do.
Well, we mentioned the key losses, and you've also alluded to some of the key returners, and I wanted to throw in Caden Woodward, and what a great football player he developed into for the Cyclones. You mentioned Diego Hunter, Logan Jenkins, Justin Pollard, to name some. Eddie Russell, you mentioned him, is like the quarterback for the Cyclones.
He is. He's going to be the starting quarterback, but you just named some good players coming back too. Caden Woodward is going to be counted on to do a lot from his defensive. I think they'll play He was safety last year, might move up to linebacker this year. It's going to be interesting to see what Coach Hatfield and his defensive staff, his defensive coordinator, Ron Watkins, is going to do with him. But again, there's other players you mentioned, Mark. Again, it's going to be an exciting year. I mean, Eastern View has got some talent, and they're not going to. The bad thing about it is Eastern View is not going to surprise anybody.
Yeah.
People are going to be ready. Teams are going to be ready to play them because of their winning record, the well-coached program that they are. That's going to be key. So every game is going to be crucial for Eastern View because every opponent that they're going to play is going to be fired up to beat them.
Yeah, and speaking of surprises, did it surprise you at all last year as far as Culpeper's success? Because I think sometimes you have to measure success in short increments.
Well, Culpeper, no, it didn't surprise me because they were getting better as the season was progressing. They're a very young team. Except for they had good leadership at quarterback with Hunter Krim, and he was able to throw the ball with Eli Marks. And again, those two were big leaders. So it wasn't surprising that Culpeper improved. But again, they got a good nucleus coming back. They got their offensive line all coming back. They've got Gabe Fry. It's going to be one of their running backs. It's going to have a good year. And they're going to be led by Blake Jenkins, who did play quarterback some against that Spotsylvania game. And then he got hurt toward the end of the season, broke his leg. But he is going to provide a different element for Culpeper. And I think, again, Coach Wakefield of the Blue Devils is going to have a strong returning team. And they take away the positives, even though they lost against Skyline, but they lost on a last-minute touchdown to a higher-ranked team that they should have won. They could have pulled the upset. Look for some good improving things from the Blue Devils this year.
You mentioned Hunter Krim, Eli Marks lost to graduation. That list also includes J.J. Washington and Will Dietz. But big news, best news perhaps for Culpeper, and you mentioned it, the offensive line, everyone is back, and there's only I think one, maybe one senior on the starting offensive line. If they're good now, they're going to be good in the future. And you know what, Steve, as you know, a good offensive line is a good way to build your team around.
You've got to have, that's the foundation, Mark. Foundation of anything you build, of a building. Got to have a good, sturdy foundation in order for it to be successful or the building to stand. And again, this is the offensive line for Culpeper, all returning. They went to a camp in Buffalo. Coach Wakefield took them up there. They worked on a few nuances and a few little technique things. But again, that's going to be their strong nucleus this year is their offensive line. Big things are expected of them. So that's in tune, which has enabled Coach Wakefield, and we'll discuss it, is how he's changed his offense this year. Because of the offensive line.
I look at Culpeper's roster. There's 41 players on it, and believe it or not, that's actually up from years past. Of those 41, they only have 11 seniors. They have 16 juniors, 11 sophomores, and 3 freshmen. So they have a good year this year with that many juniors and sophomores. It looks like the immediate future looks pretty good for the Blue Devils.
Well, it's taking Coach Wakefield some time to get his program in there, get it established. The numbers look good. You got some good returning players, good young players. If they can just learn to work together and play hard and catch some breaks, and stay away from the injury bug, if they can do that, I expect some Culpeper to surprise a lot of people. But let's bear in mind too, Culpeper is a 3A program, so that's a little bit different competition once you get out of the district. And again, so Culpeper has a chance for success in that 3A region because they're grouped in the eastern region at 3A, whereas Eastern View is in the northwest region in Division 4. They're in the eastern region again, 4A, but it's just a little bit tougher there, and when it comes to playoff time, as we all well know.
Well, Steve, I've enjoyed this dialogue and interaction with you, but let's catch up with the coaches. We'll turn our attention first to Eastern View head coach Greg Hatfield and see what he has to say about this season. Joined now by Cyclones head coach Greg Hatfield. Greg, great to see you. Welcome to the studio and to soon another start of another football season.
It's always exciting to be here. It means it's excited our start of a really busy time, and we're excited to start again.
Yeah, and we were talking. You had great weather today for football practice and a number of things last week. When it's in the 90s, I guess that's pretty torturous for the coaches and players.
It is, especially for the coaches. The older you get, the harder it is. But we changed up our practice plan a little bit. We went at night. Of course, then we had a couple of storms, but we were able to go in the gym. It's a lot cooler at night, so we just try to, again, be as safe and productive as we can be.
Well, Coach, you know, Eastern View came into existence back in 2008. You've been there from the beginning. And, you know, we talked last year about the continuity that represents and how important that is. You're back and you know, welcome back. And are there any changes to your coaching staff this year?
We are. We have Butch Fettig and Steve Francis are our defensive coordinators now. Both have been with us for a matter of years. We just changed up some of the how we were coaching as far as coaching responsibilities. So we still have most of the same guys. You know, it's getting harder and harder. You have to put so much time into football.
Right.
And I think it probably pays somewhere between 22 and 25 cents per hour. And so it's hard to get guys that are starting families or families already, you know, their doing stuff with their kids. And so it's hard to keep guys around for a long time, but we've been very fortunate that we've been able to do that. We have great guys coaching with us, a lot of local guys. We've put emphasis on getting guys that are invested in the community on our staff, so I couldn't be more happy with our staff and where we are.
And one of the things Steve and I were talking about before we went on tonight was, you know, and of course it's a natural part of things, is that in high school and college, you know, you always lose players to graduation. I looked at last year's roster, and you lost a slew of very good players, but it's always the next man up mentality. But how do you replace a guy like, for example, like Josh Stallings and some others? I mean, are you able to fill those gaps and voids readily, or are you in the process of developing people? Or
well, I think you're always developing players. You know, we know we're going to have somebody, the best kid or the worst kid on our team is going to be with us for 4 years, and it's our job that. Hopefully, we tell the parents all the time, our number one goal is to create better young men. If you're going to let us have your son for 4 years, then we owe it to him, we owe it to you to do everything in our power to make him a better young man. We talk about with our kids all the time, do your best, do the right thing, and do for others. And we figure if we concentrate on that stuff, we create better young men, that the winning and losing kind of takes care of itself. And so we did lose some great football players last year, but you know, we knew that was coming, and we are excited about a lot of the guys that we have on our team. You know, Josh Stallings is going to go down as one of the best players in Eastern View history. Very excited about Eddie Russell at quarterback, and it's not like he's a newcomer to competition. I mean, he started at linebacker for us last year, played great at JV quarterback for us before he got hurt, and then really made the transition to linebacker really well. Was always our backup quarterback, so he stayed in tune with the offense. He's done a great job leading. He's a different quarterback than Josh, maybe more of your prototypical throw-in quarterback, where Josh at times is really a fullback lined up at quarterback and did a lot of things well, but they're just different kids. So and we feel like we have a lot of good pieces around him. As far as with our seniors. Caden Woodward, who's a 3-year starter coming back. Logan Jenkins, a 3-year starter coming back. Justin Pollard, a 4-year starter for us. Desmond Brock and Blake Hamilton on our offensive line. So we felt like we lost a lot of quality kids. It's always sad when you lose those kids, but we're just so excited about the guys that we have playing for us as well.
You know, Coach, and like you said, you got a strong nucleus returning. It's hard to replace somebody like Josh Stallings. I agree with you. He's probably one of the best all-around athletes ever to come out of Eastern View.
Right.
And but you've got, I said, Eddie Russell. I've seen him play.
Right.
He brings that linebacker mentality, that quarterback position. So he's a tough kid. And you've got, it's hard to like Brett Leak to replace someone of that.
Right. The first BCS player that we've had.
Right.
Going to the Naval Academy, and it's, and I think with the thing that helps Eddie out a lot is. One, he's been under the lights on Friday nights, but he's also a basketball player.
Right.
He's a three-point shooter, so Eddie knows what it's like to have the pressure on you to have to step up and make a shot. And I think that same kind of shooter mentality is what helps them well at quarterback as well.
Absolutely,
So,
and you got weapons like Diego Hunter. Everyone says, I mean, I cannot forget being up in the booth at opposing teams and we're broadcasting your game, and people are saying, look at that little kid out there. What's he going to do? And then when they see him play,
Right.
how athletic he is,
Right.
and how from a defensive standpoint, he's all over the field.
Right.
Offensively, he's such a weapon.
Right.
And I expect big things from him this year as well.
Oh, we do too. Diego has worked out incredibly hard. We've had great attendance in the weight room. This is the strongest team that we've ever had. Our weight room attendance keeps going up. Our weight room numbers keep going up. So that's great. You know, Diego had 3 different games last year where he scored an offensive, defense, and a special team touchdown. So he is, what makes him so special is he's good in every phase of the game. Very unselfish kid, so many kids are nowadays that they see the behavior modeled where people have to ring their own bell or endorse themselves. Diego is the opposite of that. He's very quiet and soft-spoken, and he really lets his play do the talking. And
When you spoke of the basketball mentality for Eddie Russell, whereas Diego was the point guard.
Right.
And a point guard is the leader, and they see everything, and he's
Right.
the facilitator.
Right.
And Diego, like I said, team first type.
right, and,
type
and that's
guy.
really what I like with these kids is we have so many guys. We were practicing kickoff team today, and Caden Woodward is covering a kick, and we have a JV young man, Dylan Sipe, who came out and just put a perfect block on Caden. And would have been very easy for a senior to be very upset that a sophomore got the better end of him. Caden jumped up, patted him on the back, and was like, "Man, that was a great block. Your effort was great on that." And that just made me feel good that that we're doing some things right. It would have been very easy for Caden to be selfish and upset that he got blocked by a younger kid. So I think we have kids that are doing so many things the right way that. And we remind them that it only takes one mess up to really cancel out, a lot of great things that you're doing. And so they're young men and they're going to make mistakes, but they own up to their mistakes and they're trying to do the right thing.
I wanted to ask you, Coach, what, if anything, is different about this year's schedule compared to last year's?
Well, obviously we're playing the same teams but in opposite locations. Okay. I think next year we switch districts again. So it seems every time that there's been a reclassification, it's where are we going to go?
You go to the Northwest next year, region.
No, we actually go back to the battlefield.
Okay, back to the battlefield.
So
that's right.
we will move back to the battlefield district, which familiar opponents, but again it's different than playing the Fauquier schools, and so it's. This year, you have Spotsylvania, who is another year on the same coaching staff. You have Orange, who's got the 2 big backs, and Jesse Luer second year and doing a good job there. And then Bob Oliver at Chancellor, they're loaded with talent. And then Sherando, and they're loaded. So it's you kind of look at that schedule, and I sleep like a baby. I wake up every 5 minutes crying. There's no easy ones on that.
Well, everyone says, besides Eastern View and Culpeper being good, but they also say that Fauquier could surprise some people,
right?
With Coach Prince, but everyone's pointing to how strong Liberty is going to be.
Well,
and they just reload.
That's not a surprise. I mean, they're one of the best programs in the area, and they're going to be. That's what I'm looking at. Fauquier is. They had a down year last year, but I think they were still 5-5.
Right.
And Liberty was good, and Kettle Run was a little down, but the coach there came from Patriot High School under Bud Bricknell and has done a great job. So they're going to be good. There's no Sisters of the Poor really. And Manassas Park is working hard to rebuild the program. Brentsville was greatly improved last year, and so we're going to have our work cut out for us this year.
Coach, do you feel any added pressure going in, knowing that the team has traditionally had good records and made their way into the playoffs each year?
No, again, we're so focused on Spotsylvania, and we talk to our kids all the time that we have to have an internal scorecard or scoreboard as far as we're not worried about what other guys are doing. If we take care of the process and we work hard and worry about what we're doing and get better at practice every day and push ourselves in practice, push ourselves in conditioning in the weight room, that stuff will take care of itself. When you start worrying about who you're playing, then maybe you play down to opponent or you play up to opponent, but you're kind of losing focus of the game. So we don't put any more pressure on ourselves this year. We're striving to get better every year.
Speaking of Spotsylvania, that game's coming up Friday night. What do you look from them to what are they going to try to do to combat?
They're
go
a
against
classic.
your offensive and
They're a
defense?
classic wing team, and Coach Coleman, who won, I think 3 state championships there, is helping them out. So they're going to be wing T. They control the ball. They're going to run the fullback. Then they're going to run misdirection off of that. They keep getting better. It's a process, and I think that's probably the worst part about football nowadays, kind of relating with society. Everybody wants it to happen right now, and you can't build a program right now, and it takes baby steps. I watched them on film. They're a better team than what they were last year. They do things better, and they're going to be tough. Spotsylvania, whether they're 0-10 or 10-0, is always going to be a tough physical football team, and so it's going to be tough, and they're what they made lack in some athleticism. I think they make up for in toughness.
Okay.
Very good. Well, Coach, thanks for joining us tonight in the Coach's Corner. And I know you're gearing the team up for another exciting season. You've got game 1 in 4 days from now
Yes,
against
sir.
Spotsylvania, and then the week after that's against Orange County. But again, thanks for joining us, and wish you a lot of luck again this season.
Thank you. I always enjoy visiting with you guys.
It is. I'm excited. You're all going to have a good season, and I'm excited about broadcasting Eastern View. I think people are going to be surprised how good Eddie Russell's going to be.
I think he's worked. I'm pulling for him because he's our quarterback, but I'm pulling for him because of the work that he's done and how really unselfish he's been, and so I'm excited for him. I think he's got a great opportunity and he's got a chance to have a great year.
I do too.
We'll look forward to seeing him in action and the rest of your team, Coach. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, joined now by Blue Devils head coach Ken Wakefield. Coach, great to see you. Welcome
Good
to the
to see
studio.
Yeah, good to see you, Coach.
Glad to be here.
You know, in a little more than a blink of an eye, you're in your 4th season. Where did that time go?
Time flies. Time flies. It's been good though.
Yeah, and so it has been good. And Steve and I were talking about the success that the Blue Devils have experienced over time. It's been a process for you, but we've seen some good things. Notably, last year, you guys finished the regular season at 500, and we know that was the first time the Blue Devils had done that since 2002.
Yeah.
Got into the playoff, first round, you guys were eliminated, but it was a game you probably could have won. I'm guessing that based on the continued success and the fact of the things I just mentioned, that those are things you build upon.
Yeah, I mean every little thing counts. It all matters. Our guys are progressively getting better. We're doing the little things better, and I think over the last 4 years we've really gotten better up front, and I think that's where we've made the biggest strides because those guys they were young last year. They're all back outside of one player, so that's exciting. That's for the first time we've ever had that. Essentially, we were playing with a JV group age-wise last year. So for them guys to have another year under their belt is big, very important for us.
And I think that Steve will probably want to join in on this because, and I'm bringing him in on this note because when he played, he played offensive, on the offensive line, and he knows, and we all know how critical it is to have a great
huge.
group up front, and perhaps that offensive line may be one of your strongest points.
Yeah, absolutely. They're definitely hands down the hardest working kids on our team. They've been committed all summer. That same group has been. I'm pretty comfortable saying it's a solid 7 to 8 guys rotation that we have up there, and all of them are pretty fundamentally sound.
Well, Coach, as I've always said, Mark just said it. You need that foundation. That starts with the offensive line, and it's good to have the continuity now that you had, and not trying to plug in players. And like you said, they've got that experience under their belt. Tell us, and tell our viewing audience what was like. You took them up to Buffalo this year for that camp, and that had to be just nothing but all positives coming out of that for the group.
It was a great experience. It was great camaraderie, team group camaraderie, so they can get there. Place never been. We took them to the falls.
Right.
It was a great just trip for the guys to be around. but I'm from back that way.
Right.
I know some great coaches up there, and for the whole weekend, we just worked. As soon as we got in, we were actually in a garage, and we were watching film of just college athletes, of our old film, things last year of just different cut-ups. It was just a great all-around trip. And the kids came back and just continuously built on that and now we're here.
Right.
So we're getting ready to
play.
see if all that paid off and make the transition to the field.
Well, and speaking of that, and that's kind of what I'm leading into, you change a little bit of your offensive philosophy. Instead of going from a spread, you're going to go more into a run-oriented offense to take advantage of that offensive line.
Yeah, we have to establish the run a little bit better this year. We were, in the past, we've been very fortunate to have guys that can throw the ball and guys that can catch it.
Right.
And it's not that we don't have those guys now, because we still have some good athletes out there, and we have a couple guys that can throw the ball. But when you have that group up front that you can lean on and rely on, I'll take a dive play for 3 over a bomb that maybe gets picked off, or
right. Absolutely.
Chances of something positive happening are going to come more with the run than with the pass.
Because it's hard to replace Eli Marks.
Tough.
It's hard, and Hunter Krim, a good quarterback. And now with that offensive line, and Gabe Fry going to be probably one of the featured running backs.
He's going to be in the rotation, yeah.
And up front, and Blake Jenkins coming back, quarterback. That I think is going to help you very much. He's an athlete, brings a different dimension than Hunter does, and I think that's a real positive. But who up front do you expect to have a big year of that offensive line? And you don't want to single out. It's hard. I understand.
Yeah, that's the toughest part.
Yeah.
When people ask me that question who are your key guys?
Right.
And we were talking before, and I'm like, I can't name one, to be honest with you,
right?
Because it's not about the one guy.
Mm-hmm.
That 5 is legit. They're good players.
Right.
Now they're not overwhelmingly big. We don't have the 6'5", 300-pound kid up there.
Right.
But they play with good technique and they understand the scheme. So to be honest with you, I expect all 5 to have a good year.
Oh, great.
And that's the goal. For all 5 of those guys to be a true unit.
And Coach, one of the things too, a component that you're not accustomed to having with this team is that it's not like, okay, we need this person in a position here, so you're gonna have to play it. It's more like you have players who are competing at every position. And that's a nice thing to have.
That's key. You mentioned Blake,
right?
But Blake's got 2. He's got a freshman competing with him, and Eric Wilson. He's got Capone Hoffman that's coming back.
Right.
He led the JV team to a great season last year, and now it's just building on that. We got some kids at the wide receiver position that will be tough as well. So we got guys that can rotate in and fill in as needed.
So, Coach, one of the things we talked about was, we mentioned some of the losses like Hunter Krim, your quarterback, and Eli Marks. Eli Marks was a solid football player on both sides of football.
Absolutely.
And Hunter Krim, the long snapper. And so when you lose a quarterback, you also have to replace your long snapper. And there aren't a lot of candidates out there.
Some people don't realize how important that is.
Mm-hmm.
Just last week there were some sleepless nights thinking, oh man, who's gonna fill that role? Hopefully we have that ironed out come this Friday.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you sometimes you just take those things for granted of who's going to be that snapper. It's an extremely important part of the game.
And how reassuring is it to you to know that you have a good kicking game with Josh Boss? I almost said Bass, but it's Boss.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. This is his 3rd year varsity player. He's only a junior. He's looked really well in the couple scrimmages that we've had. So he's a weapon. He's definitely a weapon that we'll definitely utilize this year.
Coach, and I think you said the magic word too, that I'm really excited about Culpeper this year is that you're now more athletic, especially up front. And that is the key. Like you said, you don't have the 6'5", 300-pound lineman, but you have guys in there that are strong and they have good technique, and that's all it takes in high school football is just to get enough of a hole or some the protection for the quarterback, but they're athletic. They can move their feet well. And like I said, I'm excited. I think you're going to have a good year up front. It's going to be hard to replace Eli Marks on 149 tackles. I think it's going to be hard replacing him from a defensive standpoint more than an offensive standpoint.
Yeah, I would agree. We have some pieces that can fit into place offensively. But when you lose 100 and 45 tackles, not counting the couple interceptions for touchdowns. We just got to find those guys to step up and make those plays. And I think we do have a good unit out there. It's just finding that guy, that kid that will step up week one.
And in the course of time that we have left, I would also want to pick up on a couple of things. One, your schedule's the same this year as it was last
Yes.
year. It flip-flops with who's home and who's away.
Correct.
But it's the same teams on your schedule, so that gives the viewing audience what your competition will look like during the regular season. One other thing, Coach, too, is your coaching staff. I know Keith Slezak isn't back with
Yeah.
you. You've got a couple of new names. But can you tell our viewing audience about them?
Yeah, Donald Downs is with us. He was a former, quarterback at
Quarterback.
Culpeper. He's bringing, good things to the table. He'll be working with the DBs and receiver. We've got Brandon Oots. He's over from Madison. Really good, good coach, young coach, learning the game, but really on top of things as far as, that unit. Justin Brown's another one. He's a police officer within the area. Also brings value to the offense and defensive line up there. So those are, the new faces that you'll see kind of on the sideline. But I think everybody's on the same page, and, we're looking forward to a successful season.
And Donald Downs is the guy that, as a quarterback, I think we used to refer to him as a magician
Yeah,
because
he
he could
was.
really
Yeah.
He
fake
could
people
escape
out.
so many tackles. I've
Yeah.
never seen a kid that could
But-
just scramble his way out of
Good
trouble.
disguise with the ball. I want to also send out a shout out to the new athletic director.
Yeah,
Oliver.
Oliver.
And really, of course, we know that a number of months ago we lost Mike Wills,
Yeah.
and Mike was very popular. He had a lot of friends, and I was one of them. We miss him, and I know that
Absolutely.
Keith Slezak filled in. It turns out temporarily. Now we
Yes.
have Patricia Oliver. Can you tell us a little bit about her?
Oh, she's been great since day one. Extremely supportive. Day one of practice, she was out there taking film of our guys, taking pictures, uploading tweets, on Twitter and things like that. She's been just extremely supportive. Exactly what we need within the program. But we talk daily about just certain things, and she just gets it. She's coached before. She has that background. So I think anytime you add that into your athletic department, I think she's doing a great job.
I remember my days coaching at Liberty, and she was the assistant athletic director over at North Stafford.
Yeah.
And she was very great to work with.
Yeah.
It was a great addition for Culpeper.
Yeah.
And Coach, in the time we have left, let's take a look briefly at your first game. It's against Orange. What do you, how do you assess Orange's team this year and the matchup against the Blue Devils?
Orange has a lot, some kids back. Everything jumps off the screen about those two running backs. They're big, physical kids that you don't want in the secondary. They do a nice job of coming off the ball up front. They're very aggressive defensively. They like the game tackle. It's usually like 11 guys in the football for their defense. So we have to be sound. It's going to be a physical game. I know that. The last year when we played them, it was kind of back and forth. We got off to a slow start, but I think our guys responded really well. We were down, if I recall, 16-0. I'm looking at the clock.
Right.
Like, phew, it's only a minute left. Like gone in the first quarter. I'm like, oh boy. But in the fourth quarter, we took the lead. So that shows growth within the program. So our kids they're gonna battle. They're gonna be there in the end. We just have to do the little things right, and if we do that, I think things will take care of itself on
Plus, you
Friday.
get them at home this year, and that's a big difference.
That helps. We haven't had, we've been on the road a little bit. We're on
Right.
the whole month, the beginning of the season last year. So to get home, get in front of the home crowd right out of the gate, that's huge.
Well, Coach, you're in your fourth season here in the next week or so. Actually, the end of this week.
Yep.
And I want to say good job.
Thank you.
Thanks for sticking with it and bringing the Blue Devils back toward in the direction that I know everybody wants to see them go.
Thank you.
And thanks for joining us here tonight in the studio, and this is the Coach's Corner.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Coach.
All right. Well, Steve, we had a chance to speak with both coaches, as we always do for our Coach's Corner. And, of course, this kicks off the regular season every year for our football season. And, of course, you and I have been doing this a couple of years. And, guys,
Just a couple.
anyway, been around for a while. But these coaches have been around for a while now. Even Coach Wakefield enters his fourth season. Where did that go?
This time flew by, and it's good to see that Culpeper is getting some continuity at the coaching level. And I expect very vastly improved Culpeper team this year. It's going to be fun broadcasting them. We know what Eastern View brings to the table and the winning tradition they have, Coach Hatfield and the staff. But it's going to be interesting to see how Eddie Russell's going to do in place of Josh Stallings. And so I'm real excited, Mark, about this season. I think that we're going to be some surprises, but I think both teams, I'm going to go right here, right now, predicted, both teams make the playoffs. Both teams are going to do some damage in the playoffs.
And what else did you take away from our interview with Coach Wakefield as far as the Blue Devils? What stood out as really prominently different this year about this team?
Attitude in the winning. You can just see that he's so proud of this unit because it's his team now. He's got his philosophy in there. He's got the good foundation. The kids have bought into the program, and they 5-5 last year. They could have won that first round playoff against Skyline. They lost to the last second touchdown with about 8 seconds to go. So they've got a taste, and I just see it in him that those kids want more, and he wants more. And I like I said, that's what I see, the positive attitude that he has, and the way this year that he talks about his team, and you just know it's his team and his players.
And that's one of the intangibles, and I think the two tangibles that really jump out at me are a solid, cohesive group at offensive line. That's huge. It's critical. And then the other thing would be when he talked about having players competing at every position. That means you can be good at every spot.
That's right. It means you're pushing the players that are there, the starters. You got competition behind that you're only good as your next game, or your last game, excuse me. So, that's going to help Culpeper and help the players. And what I just, like I said, I think that they've turned a corner, and I just hope that they have some success this year. They deserve it.
All right, let's switch sides. On the other side with Eastern View, what did you take away from our interview with Coach Hatfield? What stood out as being perhaps something different about this year's team in contrast to years past?
Excitement because he's got a new team, new quarterback, but he's got good players returning. He wants to get over that second round jinx in the playoffs. He has a good team, Mark. I mean, make no bones about it. The publications have said it. He knows he's got a good team. He's got a very good skill players, and I think he's excited this year for Eddie Russell, how hard he's worked. This is his year, and to shine, to replace. It's hard to replace somebody like Josh Stallings. But what I take away, Coach Hatfield, is his philosophy of what I liked what he said is do for others. His team first, and the quality young men that he produces out of that program.
And the illustration he gave us was Caden Woodward being on the receiving end, a very good block by a sophomore. And instead of going into some rage, it was, hey, good job.
And that is so key because most seniors do not like to get blocked by a freshman or a sophomore, especially if they got, pretty shown up. And for Caden to do that, that just speaks volumes of how that team is, that they look out for each other, congratulate, because it's so better to build somebody up than to tear somebody down.
Steve, well said. I'll give you the last word on that. Listen, I enjoyed our show again as always. I'm looking forward to another season with you.
I'm looking forward to it, Mark. Let's go, ready to go. Let's play some football.
Well, that'll do it for this edition of the Coach's Corner. We'll be on the air Friday, September 2nd, when the Blue Devils are home to the Spotsylvania Knights. Until then, I'm Mark O'Connell for Steve Peacock and Johnny Krawchuk and Jeff Stanfield saying thanks for watching the Coach's Corner and for supporting Blue Devils and Cyclones football here on the Culpeper Media Network. Until the next time we see you, take care, everybody, and hope you enjoyed it.
Good night.